and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. The power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. When the text says people will be killed with death, the Greek word translated death appears to refer to deadly diseases, in other words, pestilences. In Matthew 24, Jesus spoke of the end time and said, "There will be pestilences." Here Jesus highlighted one of the causes of people being killed by the emergence of the fourth horse. Let's take a look at the third horse. John wrote, "I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand." A pair of scales indicates scarcity of food. An illustration of this can be seen in the book of Leviticus, where the Lord pronounced, "When I have cut off your supply of bread, they shall bring back your bread by weight, and you shall eat and not be satisfied." The next verse in Revelation 6 says, "And I heard a voice saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius." A quart of wheat equals a daily ration for one person. And at the time of the Apostle John, a denarius was 1 day's wage for an average worker. The voice John heard was saying that a day's ration of basic food would cost the equivalent of an average worker's entire daily wage. Such hyperinflation follows a dreadful famine. Just before mentioning pestilences, Jesus said, "There will be famines." This shows that what Jesus pointed to here matches the third horse. Let's now look at the second horse. John recorded, "Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword." The imagery of a sword indicates war. This is illustrated in the book of Isaiah, where it says, "Your men shall fall by the sword, and your mighty in the war." War will therefore take peace from the earth. Just before Jesus mentioned famines, he said, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. The nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." We see here that what Jesus says lines up with the second horse. There remains the first horse. John wrote, "I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer." In the time of John, a Roman general would ride on a white horse when returning with victory. A white horse is therefore a symbol of conquest. The white colour need not portray anything good and pure. The horseman's crown that was given to him is a symbol of authority, and the bow the rider on the white horse has in his hand is a symbol of might. An example of this can be seen in the book of U.S.A, where the Lord says, "I will break the bow of Israel," meaning the might of Israel. The horseman holding the bow has presumably arrows with him too. The book of Jeremiah speaks of armies that hold a bow. Obviously having a bow implies having arrows too. In the New Testament, believers are commanded to take the shield of faith, with which they will be able to quench all the fiery darts of Satan. These darts are shot from his bow. Thus the bow in the hand of the horseman can be seen as a symbol of Satan's might. Now what did Jesus say just before he mentioned wars? He said, "Many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will deceive many." Thus, according to Jesus, the white horse and its rider represent false Christs as well as false prophets claiming to speak for Christ. All these are agents of Satan. Later in Matthew 24, Jesus said a little more about this phenomenon. He said, "False Christs and false prophets will rise, will show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect." Since Jesus will descend from heaven on a white horse in Revelation chapter 19, the horseman on the white horse in chapter 6 is seen to be representative of seductive imitators of Christ and impostors who claim to speak on his behalf, who go about conquering and winning converts. Ultimately, the horseman on the white horse appears to represent the coming Antichrist, as well as the final false prophet. Since the prefix anti means instead of, as well as against, the coming Antichrist will not only oppose Christ, will also be a false Christ, supported by the false prophet. In relation to the first horse that comes on the scene, Jesus said, "Take heed that no one deceives you." About the second horse, Jesus said, "See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Concerning all four horses, Jesus said, "All these are the beginning of sorrows." The word sorrows can be translated birth pains. Jesus is saying that false Christs and false prophets, together with war, famine, and pestilence, are only the beginning of the world's labor in giving birth to the coming age. The four horsemen come at the beginning of the end-time troubles in the book of Revelation. There is more to come, more intense birth pains as the time draws closer to the end of the age when Jesus returns. Let's take to heart what Jesus says about not being deceived and not being troubled. And let's take comfort in that he also said, "I am with you always, even to the end of the age."